Hello, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, January 25th, 2013. Two words, debt and guns. First up, let's talk about the whole debt issue. You know, the Republicans have suspended the debt ceiling through mid-May. Now, they've come up with this, gimmicky, phony, no budget, no pay thing. But what it really is, it's Boehner and the Republicans taking this political blame game hot potato and throwing it off to Harry Reid in the Senate and said, hey, come up with a budget. We'll suspend the debt ceiling. Here you go. There you go. Come up with a budget. Come up with something we can work with. Now, we still have these big sequesters, these automatic cuts to welfare and military spending, and the military is already cutting its own budget. They already see this coming. So we already have that going on. But this is just a big blame game theater tactic, right? Plenty of people in the U.S. Congress and in government know how dire the economic situation is. They know how bad it is. And according to John Williams at shadowstats.com, he said, hey, this is the last shot that Congress gets at fixing the deficit. They did it a year and a half or so ago, and then put it up to the first this year. Then they kicked the can again. Now they've kicked it again, and this is going to be it. And what Williams says, who's an economist, he says, if they don't fix it, we're going to have big sell-off in the dollar, big sell-off in the stock market, spike possibly in interest rates. That's where we are. And I'm interviewing John Williams of shadowstats.com coming up on Monday. It's a real eye-opener. It's one of the best he's done with me, and I think you're going to want to see it. But the economy is in dire shape. It's teetering on the edge of another meltdown, and a lot of folks know that. Which brings me to my next story. Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, has unveiled a giant assault weapons ban. She wants to ban dozens and dozens of weapons, 150 some odd weapons. And, isn't this funny timing on right on the edge of dire economic situation that we find ourselves in right now, dire budget consequences, the Federal Reserve printing $85 billion a month. If they stop doing that to support the economy and the banks, boom, I think the economy would melt down. Plenty of people have said that. And here she comes out with this assault weapons ban. Not a word about the state of mental health in this country. All these gruesome shootings were crazy people. Not a word about the psychotropic drugs that the pharmaceutical companies are handing out like cough drops. We should have a little investigation on how effective they are. I mean, many of them actually have a warning for suicide. Also, not a word about the bankers that illegally threw people out of their homes all across the country, by the millions. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands probably in her home state in California. If you want the economy to be stable, you don't kick people out of their house and print tons of money and cause inflation. Maybe Senator Feinstein ought to be spending more of her time coming up with some financial solutions so the economy doesn't melt down. That'll be real good for poor people, lose their home, have massive inflation. But we want to take your gun away too, your right to protect yourself. Well, this is coming up right now. I think it's very odd timing that they're coming out and pushing this Second Amendment attack right now while we're on the edge of another financial meltdown. But I will say this, the president, to his credit, just nominated Mary Jo White to become the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Sound familiar? Mary Jo White? She put John Gotti in jail. Could this be Obama's big double cross to the financial industry once he finds out that they can't really help him anymore? That, maybe we should just jail some people and make me look good. I don't know. She's a real prosecutor. She's the real deal. Expect Republicans and Democrats in the Senate to fight her. After all, they haven't put a single elite banker in jail for massive, enormous, off-the-chart, unprecedented in American history crime. Haven't put a single banker in jail, let alone prosecute them. The St. Louis Federal Reserve, just to show you how great the economy is, the St. Louis Fed came out and said this is the weakest recovery ever. That should scare the daylights out of anybody in lieu of the fact we had QE1, QE2, Operation Twist, and now QE money printing Unlimited. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet has grown to $3 trillion of this junk that they bought. Okay? And all we have is the weakest recovery ever, according to the St. Louis Fed. That's all we got. We pumped out $16 trillion to bail out the world, and all we have is the weakest recovery ever. We had TARP, we had this $860 billion stimulus, and all we have is the weakest recovery ever. Well, if you've been watching USAWatchdog.com, I've been telling you that we've been bottom bouncing. There is no real recovery. It's little blips and bumps across the bottom. We don't have a recovery. There is no recovery. We are in serious financial difficulty. Serious financial difficulty. And as a side note, did you see what happened to Apple stock yesterday? Down, what, $60? More than $60 in a day? According to my friend Gregory Mannarino, who is a former Bear Stearns Ford trader, and he's on this site as a regular guest, he says, hey, all this money printing is nothing more than a giant pump and dump. And we've had the pump, and get ready for the dump. I mean, after all, why would you want to go long the market for 20 years to try to make, money the old-fashioned, honest way when you can, short everything after a big pump and dump and make a ton of money in 20 days instead of 20 years? A lot of people made money when Apple lost more than $60 a share yesterday. That's for sure. And that is just the first opening salvo of what's coming, according to Gregory Mannarino. You can find him on his YouTube channel. And finally, I just want to say a word about Hillary Clinton's testimony in front of Congress. And that is, she made the point, well, what difference does it make? What happened? Well, if you don't want it to happen again, you got to find out what happened. And as far as I'm concerned, listen, we had known troubles over there. It still have troubles over there. Great Britain is telling all their citizens to get out of Benghazi and get out of Libya right now. It was one of the hottest of hot spots in the world. NATO, which is the U.S., flew 20,000 sorties. We backed al-Qaeda to kick Gaddafi out. And you know what? We had 4 Americans die. And she was in charge. End of story. And finally, I just want to thank everybody that used the donate button to help us out here at USAWatchdog.com. And even if you didn't donate, just by virtue of the fact that you guys come here and make comments and read the articles and support the site, thank you very much for supporting USAWatchdog.com. I'm Greg Hunter. That's the way I see it. Have a nice weekend.